It's been a while since I covered anything related to Overlord, but we're back, and in today's video we'll be discussing a character that, while her role was really small and wouldn't have affected the main story, this is just another example of, if done right, you can make a character that has very little screen time or very little moments be as memorable as the other characters of the series as well. And the character that we'll be talking about today is a character that goes by the name of Arche Eeb Rile Furt, a character just like some of the other characters in this series that met their unfortunate end. What makes Arche's death really tragic is that she still had a lot of things planned for her life. There are still things that she wanted to do, but unfortunately those were cut short thanks to Ainz and his entire group. But before we talk about Arche's death, let's get right into the beginning, as of course in the anime they don't really go into full on detail as to who this character is and what's her backstory. So Arche was a magic caster for the worker group that's known as Foresight, who is the same group that would investigate the mysterious tomb. And of course, if you watch season 3, you would know that this tomb belonged to Nazareth. Not only that, but she used to be a noble of the Furt family, and she actually studied in the Imperial Magic Academy. Arche was a genius when it came to magic casting, so good in fact that she was actually really talented and really stood out in the academy. She was also very hardworking, as she was determined to see what full potential she had, and she was perfectly fine reaching her limits just to see the growth potential that she may have. And just like I mentioned earlier, Arche was born in the noble Furt family of the Baharut Empire, but when she discovered her magic and what she could actually do with it, she decided to sign up for the Imperial Magic Academy to see what else she could find out about magic casting and see what she could do with this kind of magic. And she would actually be recognized in the academy, as many people pointed out that her magic was very similar and just as strong as the Imperial Court Wizard and the headmaster of the academy. However, despite her having talent and despite her seeming to have a bright future ahead of her, things don't always go exactly the way you want to in life, and Arche was very quick to discover this once she found out what was going on with her family. You see, the new emperor was sitting in the throne. When this happened, her family, the Furt family, was one of the many nobles that was actually stripped from their status, seeing them as completely incompetent. But despite them not being rich anymore and despite their noble status being stripped away from them, Arche's family was still trying to live this luxurious lifestyle. They would borrow money from other people in order to still be able to get expensive things and expensive items that were completely unnecessary, and due to this they actually started getting a huge debt, and this of course frustrated Arche, so she decided to take action. First, she left the academy, decided to become a worker, taking job after job, and it is mentioned that some of these jobs weren't legal. However, that's how far Arche was willing to go in order to pay this debt that her parents were now in. During this time, this is where she would stumble upon the group known as Foresight, and for a while she actually started to become a very important member of this group due to the missions that they were now going, proving that she can be very useful in many situations. However, this is where we get into the invaders of the large tomb arc. Arche comes to find out that her group, as well as other groups, are going to be investigating this mysterious tomb that some people discovered quite recently. But before they go to this mysterious tomb, Arche decides to go home for a bit, and this is where she proceeds to scold her father for still wasting money and pretending to still be rich. But after that, she decides to have a quick conversation with her sisters. Just from this brief conversation, you can quickly see that Arche and her sisters have a very deep connection. Arche tells her sister that once this mission is done, she is going to take them away from home and take her sisters somewhere else, because she's come to realize that her parents aren't really great parents and that they're not really going to stop wasting money regardless of the situation that they are in. But if you have watched the anime or have read the light novel, you will know that this will never happen, because as it turns out, this tomb was just simply a trap, and it's very obvious that Ainz and his entire group weren't going to let anyone be alive to see another day. And that's exactly what was happening to some groups. As soon as they went into the tomb, they never came back, and one of these unfortunate groups was Foresight. Foresight ended up having to fight Ainz, and if you know anything about Ainz, he is not an easy opponent, and I'm confident to say that whenever people saw this battle, they already knew who was going to be the clear winner. And it really doesn't come as a surprise that some members of Foresight even knew this themselves. They knew that Ainz was powerful and that there was no way all of them were going to be able to get out of this situation. So one of the members actually told Arche that she should be the one to run away, because she still has a lot of things ahead of her life and there's things that she she still has to do, which I think is a moment that not a lot of people talk about. Like, this moment clearly shows us that this group really did care for one another, how some members were perfectly fine sacrificing themselves in order for one of them at least to be able to survive this entire ordeal. But as you all know, Overlord isn't a typical story, and even though Arche was able to escape and not having to deal with the fight of Ainz, that didn't mean that she was going to be able to escape the tomb that easily. Notices when she's trying to escape that there is a barrier, and she notices very quickly that there's someone following her, and this person is none other than Sheltier, who tells her that she shouldn't even bother trying to escape because where she's at right now is underground, so she's nowhere near an exit. And at that moment, Arche is in disbelief and she is panicking as she starts to realize what this all means, that this is going to be her final moment. However, she's still determined as she puts up actually a fight with Sheltier, only to fail miserably as Sheltier is able to counter her and tells Arche that she does not have to worry because her death is going to be painless, and that she should thank Ainz for that because he was the one that ordered them to kill her as painless as possible, and Sheltier was going to obey that order and did exactly that. In her final moments, all Arche could think about is her sisters and most likely how she'll never see them ever again. After Arche's death, her body will be harvested for resources, as we come to find out what happened to Arche's body. Entama, which is somebody that works for Ainz, took her voice, their mirrors took her skin, and a silk hat demon took her head. The rest of her body was considered leftovers and it was just simply turned into food. And that is the end of Arche, a very tragic death, because unlike other characters who deserved death in Overlord, aka Philip, Arche was just simply trying to make money in order to fix the debt that her parents were in. It's very clear that Arche as a person was really determined to help the people around her, even if she didn't really have to. But it's very obvious that the only reason why she did this in the first place was for her twin sisters. She cared and loved her sisters so much that she was determined to do all of this just for them. And when she realized that her parents were never going to change, she decided to try to be responsible for them and take them somewhere else where they could have a better life than what they have right now. Also, something I forgot to mention, but even the sisters don't get a happy ending, because the author of Overlord would state in his own website that when Arche failed to return home, both of her sisters were sold off to slavery by their parents in order to pay their debt. And unfortunately they both passed away due to them being overworked. So yeah, overall this entire situation is just depressing, because not only did Arche die, but her sisters that she was wanting to protect and help every way she can also passed away because of these parents who weren't really parents, they're just idiots. And I remember that when I found out about this information, now it made sense why they were stripped from their noble status and why they were considered incompetent because of actions like this. It really just demonstrates just how really immature these people were and how they really did not prioritize on making sure their kids were okay. Instead, they only cared about themselves and they only cared about their status and wanting to feel rich, when in reality they were not rich anymore. But I guess some people just can't face reality and decide to act delusional. Also, not to mention that this moment was actually a realization for some people that Ainz and his group weren't the good guys, which, to be honest, I'm kind of surprised at that, because I think the past arcs of the series really did showcase that Ainz and his group weren't the greatest people, and they were very open as to what their priorities were and what their true intentions were when doing certain things. So that's also another reason why this moment has become so memorable in Overlord, because it wasn't just Arche's death, but the arc overall showed us just how ruthless Ainz can be and how he has no problems doing all this. And Arche's death was the best example, because even though he did tell Sheltier to kill Arche painlessly, he still ordered her to kill Arche, making it very obvious that the only way these people were going to get out is by death. Death was the only solution of them escaping the tomb, and that was not going to change regardless of the situation. So yeah, that's the tragic story of the Overlord character known as Arche, a very interesting character that really did seem to have her own path in life, but sadly it was cut short by Ainz and Nazarick. And that's where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.